Dwight Holcomb is the CEO of HC Development. We'll find out what that is. His book is The Lean CMO, Low and No Cost Marketing Tactics to Run Like a Fortune 500 Company. It's available at leancmo.com. Dwight Holcomb is a serial entrepreneur, having launched several startup companies. Dwight, welcome to the Ed Tyll Show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Ed. Thank you for having me. Good to talk to you again.
You know what? Our pleasure, because as you know, the growth in small business has been explosive in this last several years, and it continues. So we do always have new small business owners who run up against this category of marketing. That's where they're not so familiar. You know, they know their expertise, they know they're technical, they have everything in the row, but when it comes to marketing, can be a stumper for a lot of people. Where should they begin?
That is a great question, and I think it's different for everybody, and it depends on who they're trying to speak to. So one of the first things that we'll work with our clients to do is really map out what we call their ideal customer profile. So they want to create an avatar of who exactly is the best fit customer for them, and then start looking at where those people live and breathe and have conversations, especially if you can find platforms and forums where they're discussing their pain. That's one of the best ways to target people in a way that's really relevant for them. So you're getting into a place where they're naturally there. In social media, for example, if we had a client who was trying to focus on a specific job title with a certain company size, although I think Facebook advertising has grown much more suitable for B2B, it's still tough to identify that specific of a client or a prospect. So if you look at going into LinkedIn in that case, you can really more clearly focus on that customer, that prospect who has a certain company size, has a specific job title. There's a lot of criteria that you can plug into that advertising or even that social outreach. So a tool like Sales Navigator on LinkedIn, if you're going B2B, you can really get granular in terms of who you're trying to talk to. So
now,
really
B2B, I just want to say for the listeners, B2B means business to business, right? That's what you mean by that?
Yes. Yes, business to business, and B2C, business to customer.
Okay.
So people who are trying to target a retail customer versus somebody who's trying to reach somebody in a higher level decision maker in a business.
All right. Now, what's the best way to know who your best customer is? Should you be looking at who you've done business with and who you've had the best results with? Should you look for people who have come to you and you really haven't reached out to them? How do you assess what your ideal customer is?
So in that case, I think it's sometimes it's not an easy exercise, and sometimes it's really we do a why exercise with our clients where we actually, Simon Sinek, who I'm a big fan of, has his Start With Why book. I've read that book several times. I encourage everybody to read that book. But in doing so, you can determine the why, not just for your company, but for yourself, and then the why of what your customers would care about what you're offering. And sometimes in doing that, you can find that, we're really best fit for a specific target. It's the more hyper focus, and I'll quote another book here, Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, where he talks about hyper targeting a segment. And if you can really resonate with that group and become very specific in your offering to a problem that they have, they'll feel that you're a solution that's made just and tailored just for them specifically. I'll give you an example. So let's say that you have a law firm and you have, say, 20 people in your law firm and you just deal with bankruptcy law, and you have two vendors that come to you that offer software. One is we do everything for everybody. We can do software for anybody. We're great. We do software for any company, any type of solution. And the other vendor comes to you and says, we just do bankruptcy software. We've been doing it for 10 years. That's all we focus on. Our software walks you through all the bankruptcy steps needed as your law practice would need. That law firm is probably going to go with the one that's tailored to them. And so in looking at how to develop a solution, a lot of times you can find that market. And some people, you may be able to fit everybody. And I'm not saying don't also offer to other people, but in your marketing campaigns, you want to talk very specifically to those groups. And you may try multiple campaigns at once, look at a couple of different groups, go out as a salmon fisherman and come back as a tuna fisherman, as I say, because maybe one group resonates with you better than another.
Got it. What is the title, the Lean CMO? What does that phrase mean? When you use the adjective lean, what are you saying there?
So I'm not talking about someone's girth, because I'm not lean myself.
Okay, good. So no hydroxycut. You don't need any hydroxycut to do this at all.
That's right. That's right. So lean in this case, it's a methodology of working with every available technology and innovation and resource that exists out there, including things like outsourcing and crowdsourcing, where you're finding ways to take a very small budget and execute in a cost-effective way, but having high impact. So if you look at something and you say, can we do this with less cost and be just as or more impactful, then it has to be looked at. And so that's operating lean. And CMO stands for Chief Marketing Officer in this case. So our audience is mostly small businesses who either have a CMO or do not have a CMO, and they're trying to execute on all these things and look like a big company, but they just don't have that budget to do it. So it's looking at all these things and trying to make sure they're doing it both in a cost-effective way, but that they're also having the highest impact and the greatest return on investment with those dollars.
Now, the title goes on, the Lean CMO, low and no-cost marketing tactics to run like a Fortune 500 company. First of all, it's interesting because you would think that if you want to emulate a Fortune 500 company, you're going to have to go big, and it's going to be tough to do things at no cost or at low cost. So how low can the cost be? How can a no-cost tactic really put you at that elite status of operation?
Okay, so that is a very good question. And it's, I think a lot of it has to do with making sure that the direction that you go is so much more focused. So here's a great example. If you were a really big company and you have really deep pockets and a big budget, you're going to go out and do TV ads and radio ads and newspaper ads and things that you don't have ways to really measure the return in some cases. You can see an uptick in your revenue, but you don't know for sure if that's what really caused it. If you placed an ad and you see some uptick, you think probably that's what did it, but there's not real measurable results. Whereas if you get really focused and you find the place where your prospects are living and breathing and communicating. So here's a great example. There is a new tool out there. I think it's created by LinkedIn. It's called myopportunity.com. And it's a marketplace. So you submit your profile, and in your profile you say, I'm looking for these things and I offer these things. And in it's like a dating service. You get in there and people who also are looking for things you offer, it matches you up and it says you've been matched with these people looking for your offering. So by doing that, and there's no cost to that, it's a free tool. Now it's a freemium model, so you can upgrade to being able to add more connections and different criteria that you can, add yourself to different zones in the U.S. and that sort of thing. But in doing that, if you go with the free model, it's a free service, but you're hyper targeting for people who are exactly in an industry with a solution that you offer. And so you're communicating with those people in a much more relevant way. And you can see the return on your time spent there because you're either getting the interested parties that turn into sales and new revenue, or you're not. And so you can alter things and shift based on, what kind of feedback you're getting, as opposed to just launching a big ad campaign and throwing ads out there with no real certainty of what their performance is.
Got it. Now, the traditional model is you would run an ad on the Super Bowl, and then you would expect Monday after the Super Bowl for the phones to be ringing off the hook. I remember when I was first in radio, we had an advertiser who was selling mortgages. And the amount of advertising that they would do over our weekend programming, they were in pretty much every single commercial break. And that was their expectation. Monday, things are going to blow up. Now, they had success with that, but the marketing landscape has changed a great deal. How do you market in the current environment when you want to get, as you say, You want to get your hyper target in there, but you want a huge impact. You want things to happen this month. You say, well, June is got to be our biggest month. It's been our biggest month before. We want a bigger month than ever in June. You got to spend about 5 or 6 weeks preparing that? What do you do to make something like that happen?
So I think there are still applications for traditional media. In fact, I think you're a good example of it in terms of your audience is pretty focused. And so if you're advertising something that meets the needs of your audience, that is not a bad place to do it, because it's not just a random throw out to a mass audience. You're talking to a very specific group of people who have specific needs. So I think there's still the application for that. And I think that as people become subject matter experts in a certain area or a certain field, then, as they're releasing content, some of that can help. But especially in these days, as all of these platforms exist, paid media still is there. Pay-per-click advertising is still a really great way to get out there. So tools like AdWords and Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads and now Twitter ads, you can advertise to a much greater market, and you can ramp that budget up for those specific times where you really need to have a large pool to come in. And so I think that still exists, but it's just that you can supplement some of if you're a bigger company with budgets and have the ability to get out into traditional media, that's great. I say just do it more targeted than maybe they had previously done it. But then also now they can look into other platforms. And the funny thing is I work primarily with small companies, software and technology companies, software as a service companies between 5 and 50 million in revenue. And most of them in the past have not believed that Facebook could be a platform, but it has now become a great business-to-business or B2B platform to get the message out there. And like I said before, sometimes LinkedIn's better for getting to a specific person in a company with a job title of a certain size.
Right.
But it depends on what you're selling. But in Facebook, a lot of times, every CEO out there has a family in most cases, and they have kids in a lot of cases where they're on Facebook and checking out their kids' photos and activity and family stuff or high school reunion stuff. And so they're on there more than ever. They may not be huge consumers there, but if you're targeting stuff correctly with sponsored posts, and you have a very specific, it's a CEO of an industry you're trying to target, and you have a message that resonates with them because it solves a specific problem they're facing, they're in Facebook and they see it and they say, oh, hey, what's this? And they click on it and maybe take them to a landing page where they can sign up for a free consultation to learn more about how they can solve that problem. That's how people can get in front of those people in Facebook that they used to not be able to.
Right on. By the way, if you're just joining us, Dwight Holcomb is our guest. The book is The Lean CMO, Low and No-Cost Marketing Tactics to Run Like a Fortune 500 Company. And we are talking to small business owners particularly today. The book is available at www.leancmo.com. All right, so we talked a lot about the attitude. When it comes to email marketing and video marketing, again, these are terms for people, and they go, oh, okay, that's great, I'll do that. What is the essence of crafting a message in both of those venues? Very different, right? The email marketing to the video?
Yes. I believe that, email marketing is still probably one of the best ways to get the message out there. Video has become, very, very popular, and it's really a great way where, blogs are still important because of, the SEO that's involved with blogs, but video is Google owns YouTube, so if you put a video on YouTube that's very targeted and you have a lot of, put the transcript in the description and have keywords in there, it's going to rise to the top. But most importantly, you can tell a message very quickly. Within 30 seconds, you can tell everything that your company does in a visual way that people can get it quickly. And so where somebody may not read through a whole lot of copy in an email, email marketing is also a great way to get video out where, and I encourage people, if you're going to do video and talk about it, don't just put a link, actually put the image of the email there with a play button on it. There's been a lot of studies showing that there's a much higher rate of click-through ratios when you actually have the image of the video, but make sure it's not more than, if you can do a video in 10 to 30 seconds, with a follow-up video somewhere they can go to see even more information, you're going to have the best chance of keeping somebody engaged and telling the message as quickly as you can in that video. But email is a great way to get that in front of people.
So technique-wise, how long should the email be? If you're doing an email blast and you've got a targeted audience, how much will they absorb out of the typed word?
It is an age-old question. We've run campaigns that have worked both ways. We split test a lot. A lot of times, some of the best campaigns are just a very natural, conversational-looking email where it says something like, "Hi, Joe. Just wanted to see if you have chance for a call this week. Or, are you available for a call this week? Here's my calendar link. You can schedule a time anytime that works for you." And the simple and short is that. Sometimes that does better than the long form, but sometimes people want more, but it's the repetition. Maybe they don't read it today, but they'll set it aside. Maybe they get back to it later. My personal opinion is I don't like to see a lot of salesy stuff, but if somebody can very clearly and concisely with a couple of bullet points show me what they're doing, I tend to respond to those a little better than the really long copy. And it's so hard to do because people are so they have that feeling that I've got to tell my story. I've got to get everything in there into that email. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just ask a simple question. Hey, are you guys looking to update your system in the next 1 to 2 years?
Right.
And that's it. Don't put a lot of sales speak or paragraphs. Just that's it.
How tough is that to tailor a message if that's not the field that you're in? Let's say we had a terrific holistic veterinarian on last week. She's incredible what she's doing with diet and just so many amazing things. But if you're not good at writing, should you get somebody to write that for you, or is that just a skill you're going to have to develop?
Yes, I think, the great news for that person is there are a lot of free resources out there. So one thing you do is there's companies like the Digital Marketer, Ryan Dice's company, where they've got swipe files you can download that they've tested, out to thousands and, probably hundreds of thousands of email messages that have gone out, and they've said, here's what works, here's what doesn't. And so things from subject lines to the bodies of the emails, there's templates that exist. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. But there are a lot of great resources out there. So if you don't have a budget to go hire somebody to do it for you, you can find those what they call swipe files, where you can just copy and paste the template information into your own message. There are some great people out there that do that. Outsourcing is also a great way to find people that can help you craft that stuff. So there's more resources than ever before to find a good solution for setting up a good email campaign.
Cool. Now, I know that you do consulting, but I also see that you do public speaking. When you're talking to people interested in this subject, and again, small business people in particular, what are some of the questions that they ask you?
I talk both on marketing and technology, and I get a lot of questions about what's coming down the pipe in terms of things like artificial intelligence. Am I going to lose my job? And if I'm a salesman or if I'm a marketer, how do I incorporate that stuff into my business so I can, get a competitive edge? And on the marketing side, a lot of times people are just, maybe they've tried a lot of old things that aren't working, and they've spent a lot of money, and they've had low success with salespeople. And so they're just looking for new ideas and fresh ideas and new ways to do stuff. And they know they need to there's a lot of people, I think everybody's just about in social media, but not everybody's in social media in a meaningful way for business.
Right.
And so there's a big difference between, just scrolling through your feed versus actually utilizing that as a tool to drive revenue for your company. So I think a lot of times people are they know they need to do it, and their questions are, what do I do? How do I even start? How do you make money using these tools? So that's probably what I hear the most.
Thank you. It's the Ed Tyll Show on Starcom Radio Network. We're talking to Dwight Holcomb, the Lean CMO. I love this. It's one of the bullet points that you discuss inside the book. Can anybody be a content machine?
Yes.
How? You get some of these people are very quiet. They're very not so creative. They think that's something for somebody else. So can someone who is kind of maybe technical and, this has never been their bailiwick, can you help them become a content machine?
Yes, and I think that there are methods now that even somebody who does I think video is one of the best ways to do it. But if you don't want to be in front of video, I'm not that comfortable getting in front of the camera and talking. But I love podcasts. I love these kind of interviews because you don't have to worry about what you look like, but you can have a nice conversation. I think a podcast is a really simple way for somebody to also utilize the platform like a YouTube, where they just post a nice image for their podcast and it runs the entire time of the audio. So it's actually a video, but it's running as a podcast with just the audio itself of the conversation they're having. It's not hard to set up some nice interview questions and contact some people. In fact, it's a great way to get new business, because if you're contacting a prospective customer and instead of asking them for business or to talk about how great your company is, you have the question for them, hey, I'm running a podcast. I want to see if you'd like to be on our show. We think you have a lot of great stuff to offer and your business has had success, and we want to talk to you about it. Whose ego isn't stroked by that? That might say, yeah, I'd love to be on your in your podcast. Whoever you are, it used to be you had to be somebody, but now anybody can do a podcast.
Absolutely.
And what a great way to get that content out there. And there's so many great platforms to put it up. So, and it's not writing, it's not having to think through. It's just asking some questions, having a dialogue. So I think podcasts is a great way for just about anybody to jump into the content game very quickly.
Right on. And what I'm hearing in that is, again, if this is new for people and they're not used to being in the spotlight at all, once they get a really good presentation out of being a guest on a podcast or whatever they do, that can kind of be their encyclopedia of points, right? You get that one good substantive outing, and then you start chopping it and find all the bullet points in there, and it gives you a little bit of focus and maybe a map to kind of follow who you are and what you want to say. Yeah, I agree. I think especially just like with everything else, if you can pick something that you feel like you can talk about and with some credibility, and if you have an area that you want to be a subject matter expert, that would lend itself to, if somebody heard you, they say, oh, I should talk to this guy to help our business, which could lead to revenue. If you can kind of connect those dots a little bit and then talk in that area, and it's not sales at all, it is only adding valuable information to an audience. But if you're talking about sales and marketing and somebody says, hey, this person knows what they're talking about, maybe we could work with them. It's a great way to have organic traffic and conversations with people that you're not selling to anybody. They just hear that you actually are speaking about something they're interested in. They run across it, and you can build up an audience that way. Now, I know people are going to love hearing this intro to the next question, and they're going to wonder, like me, how does this enrich you as a business person across the board? You've had experience in the entertainment field with huge names, Robert Downey Jr., John Lovitz, Russell Peters, and I'm sure others. Now, that doesn't sound like those are marketing guys, but how have those experiences enriched your expertise?
So I got out of entertainment right about the time that YouTube really started coming to the forefront. And the project that we did with Robert Downey Jr., he was the guest on a talk show that we did at the Laugh Factory, and John Lovitz and I were the creators and executive producers of this talk show with a gentleman by the name of Fraser Smith, who was the host. And we were trying to pitch this show as like this eclectic talk show that people, it's out of this really, the cool venue of the Laugh Factory in Hollywood. And we couldn't sell the thing. We couldn't get any studios to buy it. And I saw more and more, you had people making huge waves on YouTube with, hitting each other with wiffle ball bats, this crazy stuff. And I just thought, okay, the whole model is getting turned on its ear. You no longer have this group of people who control what media is, what's funny or what's not, or what's entertaining or not. The audience is now grabbing this. And so fortunately for me, I had some great experience with, in the video side of things and in editing. And, I have a full green screen studio and high-end equipment and all that, and that's great. But the great part is if it's good content, like we're saying with a podcast, it's just your audio. You just record it with your phone or a mic or whatever you want, and then you just post it up onto YouTube.
Wow.
You can put a graphic that runs the whole length of the segment. But these things have enriched me because I was hitting my head against the wall in that industry trying to find the way to get into the big guys. And we had a couple of development deals. We had some great stuff that we were working on. We sold a script to NBC that they sat on it because marketing said they were the wrong demographic. The show was the wrong demographic for their audience. And so, you finally get enough of that and you realize, hey, there's this whole thing called YouTube and social media where you can build up your own audience and nobody has to tell you that you can or can't. If you have good information, you're going to continue to get followers. You're going to continue. But that's for people who are just looking to become famous. In business, all you need is a handful of clients paying you X number of dollars a month, and you don't need to worry about, you just keep refreshing that or replenishing that or growing that at your pace or whatever you want. And if you have a good message, people are going to find you if you're putting it out there in the right place as a subject matter expert of stuff that they need to hear about.
Wow, what a great lesson that is, right? You can have Robert Downey Jr. and John Lovitz, and you can have all that talent, and they go, I don't think so. And it's got to be a mind blower, and then they're right up against the backdrop of YouTube. Dwight, I love having you on the show. You're so easy to follow. It's so accessible. Let me get people to all of the different things here. Dwight will be happy to consult your business at hcdco.com. If you want to reach out to him personally, go to DwightHolcomb.com and go to LeanCMO.com and get the book, The Lean CMO, Low and No Cost Tactics to Run Like a Fortune 500 Company. It's so disarming when we have you on. I think people just back up and go, oh, boy, marketing. I hope I know what they're talking about. Man, it really was a great visit today. As always, I hope you'll come back on the show again and again.
I'm honored to be here, Ed. Thank you for thinking of me. I love your show, and I love being a part of it, so thanks so much.
Oh, man, you rock. Dwight Holcomb, everybody. He is how much can you learn just in that brief visit with him? Right. I hope you made a bunch of notes off this visit today. It's incredible. And how fast did that go? We just did a half an hour. It went by like 3 minutes. Dwight Holcomb, the Lean CMO, Low and no-cost marketing tactics to run like a Fortune 500 company. If you're a small business owner and you are fearing marketing, don't. The best marketing strategies for small businesses. Dwight Holcomb, our guest on the Ed Tyll Show, Starcom Radio Network. We're going to catch you up on news, weather, traffic, sports, and the close on Wall Street. Then we'll be back with more.